Okay, so picture this, a quiet hobbit, right? A sudden invitation, and then a mountain of gold. But it's guarded by a dragon.
Sounds intense.
It is pretty intense, and that's exactly what we're diving into today.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, so we are going deep into The Hobbit. A story full of adventure and honestly a lot of personal transformation.
Definitely transformation. I think that's one of the most interesting parts of the story for sure.
Yeah, and you've probably heard of it, maybe even read the book yourself, but we're going to kind of like tailor this discussion just for you.
Perfect.
So, The Hobbit tells the story of Bilbo Baggins, this home-loving hobbit. I mean, he really loves his home, but his comfy life is totally turned upside down.
Yeah, no kidding. It's quite the change for him.
It really is. So, a wizard named Gandalf shows up, and he brings 13 dwarves with him.
Oh, yeah, those dwarves.
Yeah, and they're on this quest to take back their treasure from, well, you guessed it, a dragon named Smaug.
Smaug, yeah, he doesn't mess around.
No, he does not. So in this deep dive today, we're going to pull out like the essential parts of Bilbo's adventure.
Okay, I like it.
All right, we're going to look at the surprises, the changes he goes through.
Sounds good.
But we're not going to get stuck in all the tiny little details.
Right, we want the big picture.
Exactly, the big picture. The key moments. What do they tell us about courage and resourcefulness, and like why are we so drawn to the unknown?
All great questions.
So let's start with Bilbo's life before all this craziness begins.
Okay, so we're talking pre-adventure Bilbo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Tolkien describes his home as a comfortable hole at Bag End.
And that's not just like a cute saying, is it?
No, it's pretty literal. He lives in a burrow, like in the side of a hill.
A hobbit hole though, right?
Yes, a hobbit hole. Very important distinction.
Okay, yeah. What makes it a hobbit hole?
So it's super cozy and snug, and it's like packed with food.
Of course it is.
I mean, he's a hobbit, they love to eat, and the whole place, it's just designed to keep adventure far, far away.
So this is telling us something important about hobbits, right?
It definitely is. So they're small, they tend to be a little round, they have those famously furry feet.
Oh yeah, can't forget those.
Right, and they love their food and drink. But most of all, they love peace and quiet.
So not exactly the adventurous type.
Not at all. He's perfectly happy in his little haven there near Hobbiton, and it's this love of routine. Just the ordinary day-to-day stuff. This is what makes Bilbo Bilbo.
Right, that's his starting point, so we can understand why everything that happens is such a huge shock to him.
Exactly, and then boom, Gandalf shows up.
Talk about a disruption.
Right, and he doesn't come alone. He brings 13 dwarves.
A whole party of them.
I know, and not just any dwarves. These are what Tolkien calls militant dwarves.
Okay, so they mean business?
Oh yeah, they are serious about their mission. They're there to reclaim what they believe is rightfully theirs.
Their treasure.
Exactly. And they look at Bilbo, this hobbit, who loves comfort and routine, and they're like, really? This is our burglar.
I mean, you can't really blame them, can you?
No, not really. I don't think Bilbo's ever stolen anything in his life.
Probably not.
So their skepticism is like thick in the air.
Yeah, you can almost picture them looking him up and down.
Right, these 13 serious dwarves looking at this tiny hobbit who looks like he'd rather be having second breakfast than going on an adventure.
And let's not forget what they're actually trying to do here.
Oh yeah, confronting a dragon.
Not just any dragon, Smaug.
Smaug, who's sitting on a mountain of treasure.
This is a serious quest.
It really is an epic quest, all packed into this little story.
Yeah.
And Bilbo at this point is absolutely terrified at the thought of leaving his home.
I mean, can you blame him?
Not at all, but Gandalf, he sees something in Bilbo.
Something the dwarves don't see.
Right. He tells them, both the dwarves and Bilbo, that there is more to the little hobbit than meets the eye.
Which is kind of interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Because it's not just like a nice sentiment. It's like this hint about what's going to happen.
It's foreshadowing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is this hidden potential that Bilbo has and what's going to bring it out?
That's what we're going to find out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that unlocking of Bilbo's potential, it starts pretty quickly.
Like right out of the gate.
Yeah, almost as soon as they leave, they run into trouble. 3 hungry trolls.
Oh boy, trouble already.
Big trouble. And this encounter, it actually tells us a lot.
What do you mean?
Well, you've got these dwarves. They're supposed to be these tough warriors, right? But they get captured by trolls pretty easily.
Okay, so not the best start?
No, it's Gandalf who saves them.
How does he do that?
It's pretty clever. He tricks the trolls by mimicking their voices and making them argue.
So he turns them against each other.
Yeah, and they argue until the sun comes up and turns them to stone.
That's pretty smart.
It is. But there's something else important that happens here in the trolls' camp.
What's that?
They find a bunch of weapons,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
including these amazing elvish swords.
Orcrist and Glamdring.
Yes, and Gandalf takes Glamdring and Thorin takes Orcrist, and then there's a small sword that Bilbo finds.
Which seems kind of unimportant at the time.
Right, but it's going to be really important later on for Bilbo.
Okay, so it's like they're getting equipped for the adventure ahead.
Exactly. It's like foreshadowing the dangers and the heroism that's coming.
Yeah, I can see that.
So after this close call with the trolls, they need a break, right?
Yeah, some rest and relaxation.
And they get that in Rivendell.
The elven stronghold.
Yes. It's this beautiful, peaceful place, and they get advice from Elrond the Elf Lord.
Elrond, he's pretty wise, right?
Oh yeah, he's seen a lot. And while Tolkien doesn't give us all the details of what Elrond says,
Okay.
we know that Rivendell is like this place full of history and knowledge.
So Elrond probably gave them some really valuable information.
Yeah, probably about dragons and the dwarves' lost kingdom, things that would help them on their quest.
Right, like insider tips.
Exactly. But this peace and quiet, it doesn't last forever.
Of course not. This is the Hobbit.
Right. So next they have to cross the Misty Mountains.
Those don't sound very friendly.
They're not. They're treacherous. And while they're crossing, they get caught in a terrible storm.
Oh no.
Yeah. So they take shelter in a cave, but it turns out it's full of goblins.
That's bad news.
Really bad news. And the goblins capture them.
Even Gandalf.
Even Gandalf. This shows just how vulnerable they are.
Yeah, and this is where things get really interesting for Bilbo.
It is. He gets separated from the group.
Lost in the goblin tunnels.
Yeah, it's a total accident, but it's a turning point for him.
Because he's all alone.
All alone in this terrifying place. And for the first time in his life, he has to rely on himself.
To survive.
Exactly. And it's in these dark tunnels that Bilbo makes a discovery that changes everything.
This is where he finds the ring, right?
Yes, the ring. He's stumbling around in the dark and he finds this strange golden ring lying on the ground.
It seems like just a random thing at first.
Right, but we know it's not random at all. This ring is going to have huge consequences for Bilbo and for the whole world of Middle-earth.
So he finds the ring and then he meets Gollum.
Yes, Gollum, this creepy, hissing, whining creature who lives by a dark pool.
Gollum is such a strange character.
He really is. He spends his life hunting blind fish and goblins in the dark. And when he meets Bilbo, he wants to eat him.
I mean, that's just Gollum's way.
Right, but Bilbo, he challenges Gollum to a riddle contest.
That's a classic.
And the stakes are high. It's Bilbo's life.
Yeah, no pressure.
And somehow Bilbo wins.
Even though he's not exactly a riddle master.
No, his winning riddle is kind of funny. It's, what have I got in my pocket?
It's more of a trick question than a riddle.
Yeah, and Tolkien even describes it as a dubious riddle.
But it works.
It does. Gollum loses, and he's furious. And that's when he realizes his magic ring is missing.
The ring that makes him invisible.
One ring, and of course, it's the same ring Bilbo found.
Oh, wow. So the story is connecting these two events together.
It's showing us how important Bilbo's discovery is, even though it seemed like an accident.
Yeah, and this is where Bilbo really has to think fast.
He knows Gollum's going to be angry, so he puts on the ring.
And disappears.
Vanishes. He escapes from Gollum and the goblins, and he finds a tunnel leading out of the mountain.
What a close call.
It really is. It's his first real act of bravery, and it shows how much he's changing.
He's not the same Hobbit who left home.
Not at all. And when he gets out of the tunnels, he finds that Gandalf and the dwarves have escaped too.
So they're all free.
For now, but they're not safe yet.
What happens next?
They get attacked by wargs.
Those evil wolves.
Yeah, the ones that work with the goblins, and they're chasing them through the wilderness.
So they're in trouble again.
Big trouble, but then just when it seems hopeless, they're rescued by eagles.
Eagles like giant birds.
Exactly, giant eagles. They swoop down and carry them away to safety.
Wow, that's pretty dramatic.
It is, and then they meet Bjorn.
Bjorn the skin changer.
Yes, he's this really powerful being who can turn into a bear.
Okay, that's intimidating.
Yeah, he's a little scary, but he helps them too. He gives them shelter and food and time to recover.
So they have some allies now.
They do, which is good, because their next challenge is Mirkwood.
Mirkwood the forest.
Yes, a very dark and dangerous forest.
It doesn't sound very inviting.
It's not. It's full of all sorts of dangers, and to make matters worse, Gandalf leaves them. I know he says he has urgent business elsewhere.
So now they're really on their own.
Completely on their own, and they have to face the forest without their wizard guide.
This is where Bilbo's courage is really tested.
It is, because Mirkwood is a terrifying place. The air is thick and heavy, and it's easy to get lost.
And they run into giant spiders.
They do. Those are a classic fantasy monster.
Yeah, huge, creepy spiders.
And the dwarves get caught in their webs.
Oh no, stuck.
Totally stuck. And this time it's Bilbo who saves them.
Really?
He uses his sword sting and the ring to fight off the spiders and free the dwarves.
So he's become the hero.
He really has, and it's after this that he names his sword Sting.
That's a big moment.
It shows how much confidence he's gained. He's not afraid to fight anymore.
He's not a timid hobbit anymore.
Not at all. But even though they escaped the spiders, they're not out of the woods yet.
Literally.
Literally, they get captured again, this time by wood elves.
Oh.
They have to live in the forest, and they take the dwarves prisoners.
So back to square one.
Kind of. But Bilbo, he's separated from the dwarves, and he comes up with a plan to rescue them.
Another daring rescue.
He hides the dwarves in empty barrels.
Barrels. Oh, yeah.
And he sets them floating down the river.
That's pretty clever.
It is risky, but it works. They escape the elves.
And they're getting closer to their goal, right?
They are. They finally make it out of Mirkwood, and they arrive at Lake Town.
Lake Town. A town on a lake.
Exactly. It's built right on the water, and it's close to the Lonely Mountain.
Where Smaug is.
Yes, the mountain is their final destination.
So they're almost there.
Almost. And from Lake Town, they sneak into the mountain.
It's time to face the dragon.
And it's Bilbo who goes in first.
To steal the treasure.
Yes, he's the burglar. Remember?
Great, of course.
And he actually has a conversation with Smaug.
Mm-hmm. He talks to the dragon.
He does. He's terrified. But he manages to stay calm. And he tricks Smaug into revealing a weakness.
Smaug has a weakness.
He does a spot on his chest where his armor doesn't cover him.
That's crucial information.
It is. And Bilbo, he manages to steal a golden cup from Smaug's hoard.
But that makes Smaug angry.
Oh yeah, Smaug is furious.
Yeah.
He flies out of the mountain and attacks Lake Town.
The dragon attacks.
It's a terrible scene. Smaug is breathing fire and destroying everything.
So they were so close, but now it's even worse.
It seems that way. But then a hero steps up, Bard the Bowman.
Bard.
He's an archer from Lake Town, and he learns about Smaug's weakness.
From Bilbo.
Actually, no, from a thrush.
A bird.
Yeah, a little bird tells him about the weak spot, and Bard shoots an arrow right into Smaug's heart.
It kills the dragon.
He does. It's an incredible shot, but it comes at a cost. Lake Town is destroyed.
That's tragic.
It is a bittersweet victory. And then things get even more complicated.
How so?
Well, now that Smaug's dead, everyone wants a piece of the treasure.
Everyone.
Yeah, the humans from Lake Town, they've lost their homes, and they need help.
Of course.
And the Wood Elf, they show up too. They all want Thorin to share the treasure.
But does he?
He does not. He refuses. He's become obsessed with the gold.
That's not good.
It's not. It leads to a siege. The humans and elves surround the mountain, and Thorin and the dwarves are trapped inside.
Along with Bilbo.
Yeah, and Bilbo, he sees that this is going to lead to a huge battle.
So he tries to stop it?
He does. He sneaks out of the mountain and goes to the humans to try to negotiate a peace.
That's brave of him.
It is, but Thorin is furious when he finds out.
He feels betrayed.
Exactly. He sees it as a betrayal, and things are really tense until Gandalf shows up again.
Gandalf always comes back.
He does, and he calms things down just in time, because a new threat appears.
A new threat, what is it?
An army of goblins and wargs.
Goblins again.
They're back, and this time they're not messing around. It's a huge army.
So now everyone has to work together.
Exactly. The humans, the elves, and the dwarves, they had to put aside their differences and fight the goblins.
That's a big battle.
It is one of the biggest battles in Middle-earth, and for a while it looks like the goblins might win. But then Beorn arrives.
The skin changer.
Yeah, in his bear form, and he's a one-bear army.
That's awesome.
It is, and the eagles come back too.
They swoop down and save the day.
They do. They turn the tide of the battle, and the good guys win.
Finally, a victory.
A hard-won victory. And after the battle, Bilbo and Gandalf, they start the long journey home.
Back to the Shire.
Back to the Shire. But when Bilbo gets back to Hobbiton, he finds that things have changed.
He's not the same hobbit anymore.
He's not. And the other hobbits, they see him as kind of strange.
They don't understand what he's been through.
They think he's making up stories about dragons and goblins.
But Bilbo doesn't care what they think.
No, he doesn't. He's seen too much. He's grown too much. He realizes that he doesn't need their approval.
He's found something more important.
He has. He's found courage and resourcefulness and a love of adventure.
And he's still happy to be home?
He is. In the end, he's content to be back in his comfortable hole at Bag End, but he's not the same hobbit who left.
He's changed for the better.
Exactly, and that's what's so great about The Hobbit. It shows us that even the most ordinary person can do extraordinary things.
And it makes you think about your own life.
It does. What kind of adventures are waiting for you? What challenges will you face, and how will they change you?
That's a great question for our listeners to consider.
It is, because sometimes the most unexpected journeys lead to the greatest discoveries.
Discoveries about ourselves and about the world.
And sometimes we have to step outside our comfort zones to find out who we truly are.
And that's something we're thinking about.
Definitely something to ponder. So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into The Hobbit.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep adventuring.